In this video, I'm going to show you how to replace the rear CV axles on this BMW 328i. Let's get into it. We're going to remove the wheel. Use a 17mm socket. Take the lug bolts out. Before you take the last one off, I'm just going to hold the wheel. Take that out. And grab the wheel, slide it off. We're going to remove the axle nut. Just taking a chisel or a punch, and it's peened over right in those areas. We're just going to try to bend that back a little bit. That's good. Take a 36mm 12-point socket. Take that nut off. That's the nut. Using an 18mm socket on the bolt and an 18mm wrench on the nut, I'm going to loosen up the nut and bolt. There we go. Take that nut off. I'm going to slide that bolt out. Using a 18mm socket, we're going to take this bolt out here, the center upper control arm. Pull that out. You can tip this even further back. We're going to take these bolts out on the axle flange. Use an E12 socket. I'm going to take the ones out up top because it's easier to access them. If you try to get the bottom ones off, the boot's in the way, and you can turn the axle either way, so it's a little easier. To stop this from turning, I'm just going to use a pry bar. Just go in between some of the bolts, and then loosen up the bolt that you're on. Let's go around and loosen all the bolts first. the axle, tip it back, slide it up, and out of the way. It's good. You can try using a punch and a hammer and hammering out the axle. This one's in there pretty good, so we're just going to use a bearing puller. Get this started. We'll just push it out. Sure that's kind of lined up evenly. Just going to use a pry bar to prevent this from spinning. Just tighten this by hand. Just going to push the axle out. I don't want the axle to fall, so I'm just going to hold on to the axle. There we go. Just grab the axle, and it comes right out. If you need to, you can use a wire brush and just clean up the center splines of where the hub is. Take the new axle, slide it in to the hub. Twist it back and forth a little bit. Lightly using a rubber mallet, just push the CV axle all the way down. Just give it a couple taps just to get it so it goes in the hub. But don't hit it too hard. You can put that nut on, get a couple threads. And we'll tighten this down. Use a 32mm socket. Tighten that down. As that tightens down, we're going to pull the axle through. Take the axle, slide it up and down into place. Take our bolts with the little washers, get those lined up. Get those started. Try to alternate back and forth. Tighten it down evenly. Be careful of the boot as well. You don't want to rip the boot. I'm going to torque these bolts to 54 foot-pounds. Just use the pry bar to prevent it from spinning. Just alternate. You can always go around and double check just to make sure. Yep, that's all of them. That's good. I'll take this bolt, put the upper control arm back in. You're gonna have to push the knuckle back a little bit just to get that started. That's good. Snug this down. Just so it's close. We're not going to tighten it down all the way. What we want to do is torque that when the vehicle is at ride height, so we're going to have to support the lower control arm. We're going to do that after we put the other bolt in. Get this arm lined up. If you need to, use a pry bar. Get the bolt. Get that started. There we go. Got it started. Now get the nut on. Don't tighten this completely, just get it snug. And using a floor jack, I'm just gonna raise up on the suspension so it's as close to ride height as possible and safe. Right there's good. Now we're gonna torque that bolt to 74 foot-pounds. It's a little tricky to get a torque wrench in there. Do the best you can. Now we're going to torque this bolt to 74 foot-pounds. Now I'm going to lower the suspension. I'm going to take some lug bolts, and to prevent the brake from turning while we're torquing the nut, just take a pry bar, just have it up against the ground, just like that. We're going to torque this nut to 310 foot-pounds. Yep. Take the lug bolts out. Just take a punch or a chisel and we'll just peen the edge of the nut over. Just so it doesn't loosen up. That's good. Just like that. Line the holes up. Get the lug stud started. Snug those down. Now I'm going to torque the lug bolts to 90 foot-pounds in a cross pattern to tighten the wheel down evenly. Just go around again, double check.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.